All right, Shalom, Shalom. I'm Y'all coming at you another lesson straight out of the Lion's Den Camp of Yashala. But before I get started with this lesson, I would like to give all praises to the Heavenly Father in the name of His only begotten Son in their proper true names. And we're going to start off by saying Kal, Halayim, La, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Ha, Rakah, Kodash, Ma'amath. All right. Definitely want to give double honors to the apostles of GMS and their elders. Definitely want to give double honors to my elder, Ahar Wam, Banyasha Olive, the Lions Den Camp, located in Jacksonville, Florida. Shalom to the sincere men, women, and children that believe in sincerity and truth and that believe on the names of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. All right. Today's lesson is going to be back on Donald Trump. All right. And he, and his tariff threats, all right, that he pushed over this weekend. Now, this was article on Daily Cost about 7 hours ago. And it says Trump unleashes new hell on the economy, even if he pulls a taco. All right, and the taco stands for, there's a new acronym for Donald Trump is taco, right? Which means Trump always chickens out, if I'm not mistaken. All right, that's the acronym for it. All right, taco. All right, Trump always chicken out. All right. It says President Donald Trump issued more insane tariff threats over the weekend, announcing that he will put a whopping 30% tariff on goods from the European Union and Mexico. That, if implemented, would cause inflation and pain for American consumers. The 30% tariff is even higher than the Liberation Day tariff rates Trump placed on the EU and Mexico in April, but was forced to pause because the stock market cratered after economists warned of economic devastations. All right, and that's he's right back at it, man. Trump is not worried about the plan is actually to crash the economy, man. That's their plan. That's my belief. Because YouTube, you gotta say certain things because YouTube will take your page down, boy. But that's the goal. To crash the economy, right? And that's gonna bring in inflation, famine, plagues. I'm saying plagues, but inflation, famine, uproars of the people. That's it's going to bring America down, man, and it's really going to hit the pockets of the lower class, in the middle and the lower class, man. At the end of the day, right? It says the 30% tariff is even higher than the Liberation Day tariff rates Trump placed on the EU and Mexico in April, but was forced to pause because the stock market cratered after economists warned of economic devastation. This time, however, stock markets are responding while a collective yawn, as investors assume that Trump will pull a taco and chicken out of actually implementing the massive tariffs on two of the United States' largest trading partners. Yet, even if the ultimate tariff rates are lower than 30%, any increased tariffs, right? Any increased tariffs will be inflationary and hurt lower income Americans, right? And that's what's happening, man. Which is going to bring in inflation. Price is going to end up going up on the shelves because these companies got to pay more money, right? And what that's going to do is cause, us to either pay more for less, or lose jobs. It says tariffs are a regressive tax, especially in the short run. The Yale Budget Lab wrote in an April analysis of Trump's original Liberation Day tariffs. This means that tariffs burden households at the top of the income ladder more than those at the bottom as a share of income. Indeed, even though Trump have caved and paused some of the tariffs he previously announced, other tariffs have gone into effect that have Salakia. Oh man, Salakia. All right, it says Salaki about that. Other tariffs have gone into effect that have drastically increased the amount of tariffs businesses, right, are paying for imported goods. For example, even the 90-day pause on the Liberation Day tariffs left a blanket 10% tariff on all imports and 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum and 25% on car and auto parts are currently in effect. According to a report from the Yale Budget Lab, with the Trump tariffs currently in place, consumers face an overall average effective tariff rate of 20.6%, the highest since 1910. All right, let me read that one more time. According to a report from the Yale Budget Lab, with the Trump tariffs currently in place, consumers face an overall average effective tariff rate of 20.6%, the highest since 1910. The Yale Budget Lab said this amounts to an average per household income loss of $2,800, right? $2,800. What's more, the so-called deals Trump has announced that absolve the UK and Vietnam of the original Liberation Day tariffs leave those countries with double-digit tariff rates that would cause pain for consumers. For example, all goods imported from Vietnam will face a 20% tariff, which is lower than the massive 46% tariff rate Trump had initially threatened, but is still large enough that American companies who purchase goods from the Asian nation will either have to raise prices or see major cuts to their profit margins that will threaten jobs, man. All right, so again, there go jobs, which is gonna hurt the pockets. And there goes the prices being marked up. All right, which is also gonna hit the pockets. Right, all that's leading up to the really just gonna bring forth the downfall of this economy, man. It says, right, this will clearly lead to reduced demand for goods, hurting American businesses and jobs. Steve Greenspoon, founder of U.S. home goods retailer Honey Can Do, told the Financial Times companies will continue to produce their products in Vietnam, though at a lower pace than prior to the tariffs. That is the complete opposite of what voters elected Trump to do, and it's likely why his approval rating is tanking and leading to fears that the GOP, right, that's the Republican Party, will lose its congressional majorities in the 2026 midterms, man. All right. So, yeah, it's Trump with that BS again, man, causing, he's putting that hurt on Mexico and the EU, man. All right. Oh, slucky. All right, there we go. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Right? Because, these wicked, right? The wicked, is their soul is not upright in them, man. So they're going to continue to, especially Edom, because they was blessed with the sword, man. Basically, gonna conquer the earth, right? And they're gonna do it with the sword, and that was their blessing. The world was given into the hands of the wicked. Slucky. And that was the blessing Isaac gave to Esau, right? So them basically conquering the world through the sword. All right. It says, yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. Right. This man, this is the mindset of all Esau, all Adumia, their desires can't be satisfied, man, and they enlarge it as hell, man, his desires as hell, so no matter what they take, no matter what they conquer, they're still never going to be satisfied, man. They're a proud nation of people, right? With that proud mindset is one of the things that the Lord hates, right? So they go around taking everybody's stuff. This is why it says they neither keepeth at home, right? Who enlarges his desire as hell. Going around trying to conquer everything, right? And speaking on this particular video, putting more tariffs on these countries, man, which is going to eventually, right? Because when in the article it said NATO, so like it said the EU and Mexico, right? And it's prophesied that the EU is going to turn against this place, to turn against the whore, America, and this is one of the reasons why. They're getting sick of America and America BS. Especially with what Trump got going on. But these are one of the reasons what's going to make the whore turn against America. At the end of the day, and Salakia make make NATO and the EU turn against America. Which is the whore that rises upon the scarlet colored beast, man. Let's go. Let's go to the chart real quick, man. Now I tried to blow this up, but it's still blurry. So, if you get a chance, go check out the chart. Right, the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns is NATO. Right, it's NATO and the EU. Right, so when you go in, it gives you all the EU countries and the NATO countries. All right. Can't really see it on this particular, but Salakia for that. But if you go to this particular, you type this into YouTube, you can get the full picture of the chart, man. All right. But this is Revelation 17 and 16, and it reads, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore." Right, and that's part of the prophecy, man. NATO and the EU turning against the whore. Which is America, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Right, so they're prophesied to come against them in the latter days, man. And this is further pushing NATO and the EU to go against America. At the end of the day, is everything is the Lord is putting pieces together and leading the hearts of the kings that rule these countries, right, to get everything in order, right, to put all the right pieces in the right places. So at the end of the day, the things that Trump has going on, especially against the EU, right, it's going to lead up to prophecies like this, of the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, man. All right. Back at Habakkuk. No, Salaki. I had something else, but I must have lost it. All right. Let's go to second address real quick, Salaki. All right. So before Trump got in office, everything was looking sweet, to these Edomites. As we were still putting out videos saying ain't nothing sweet, and the Lord is showing us, the elect, that it's about that time, right, for America to fall, right? But the mindset of those people, right, they had the mindset that, hey, man, look, everything's cheap, everything, shit, we living good out here, Now look at people, that inflation kicking in. We already seen a little bit of that earlier this year, so it's just Trump steady knocking the economy lower and lower, man, especially these businesses, these companies, man, farmers as well, dealing with ICE, getting rid of getting rid of the Southern Kingdom, man. The Northern Kingdom, Salakia, pushing them back into places like Mexico, Venezuela, right? And that's hurting the farmers as well. They have to pay more. They have to find American workers who, ain't gonna work like, the Mexican workers, Issachar. They're part of the 12 tribes too. But that's it. All of that stuff is hurting the economy, man. The farmers are pissed off. These major companies are pissed off. Other countries are getting pissed off. It's all because of the mindset of Trump, man. And what really is coming from the Lord, to bring forth His prophecy. This second address 15 and 46. No, that's not what I want. Salakia. Salakia. Oh, it might be in 16. Yeah, Salakia. This is second Edge 16 and 18. The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, right? So these are the great sorrows, man, that the Lord warned us about. About the rumors of wars. We're seeing those proxies pop off as we speak, right? Um, it goes into famine, pestilence, and destruction. We're seeing all these things, right? As America keep getting hit, um, you know, I ain't gonna say keep getting hit, but as Trump keep hitting other countries with these tariffs, it's gonna eventually, you know, bring in inflation, which is, and eventually to the point where we're in a recession, man. It says the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. Right, and as we see, because these powers that rule the world, right? These major countries, they're it's been nothing but talk of World War III, right? And they know, World War III is going to happen with nuclear destruction. That's what everybody's been talking about, right? And a lot of these countries don't want to, they don't want a nuclear war because they know that's shit. They can possibly be unalive through that, And at the end of the day, they know once World War III kick off for sure that the Lord gonna show up. You know, it says right. It says the beginning of wars. Verse 18 says the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine, right, which goes into this particular lesson, which will bring in bring in inflation, right? That's part of famine and great death, right? The beginning of wars and the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, man. See, all these things are sent for scourges for amendment, for all the wickedness that's been spread across the earth, man. You know, it says, but for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges, right? So they're gonna continue in their wickedness at all times, man, until the Lord, put them under His foot. It says, behold, victuals, and this is the point I was grabbing, is victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case, right? So just a couple years ago, everybody thought they was living good, especially the ones in with fatter pockets, with these major companies that all these major companies was doing good. Now look at them, man. These tariffs are kicking their butt right now, and more than likely they voted for that man. That's what they really mad about. Even the farmers, but their mindset is so chopped and screwed, and a lot of them will sit there and say, at the end of the day, it's like we'll still vote for him again. They lose all their money, about to lose their business, and they wouldn't change a thing. That's the pride in Esau, man. You know, um, 21. It says, "Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth." Right, sword, famine, and great confusion. Right, so those victuals, man, that goes into stuff like trading. Right, stuff like that. What these tariffs hit. Us trading back and forth from different countries, right? Everybody ordering off Temu, thinking shit sweet, then boom, all of a sudden, here come these tariffs. Now, the company has to pay more. These companies here in America have to pay more, which is going to cause the lower class to lose jobs and have to pay more for whatever product it may be, it can be something, it can be dealing with food, it can be dealing, so on and so on. All right, it says, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, right? That goes to inflation, right? And the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy, man. All right, going to those ICBMs. All right. Let's go to 2nd Esdras 15 real quick, and it says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. Right. This is why we continue to do these videos, man. To speak the words and to tell the people of the upcoming destruction that the Lord has set for this place, man. To get their mind out of this place, right? To be in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, right? And take your mind out of them worldly, out of that worldly mindset. All right, it says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true, right? So as these scriptures, man, the word of the Lord, man, is faithful and true. So we continue to push the videos, to push forth his prophecies and push forth his word and his doctrine, right? To keep our people spiritually in tune with the Lord, through the prophecies and building up their faith and understanding, through the spirit and power of the Lord, right? When he blesses you with that Holy Spirit, verse 3, fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee, right? Incredulity means the unbelief. So even if they don't believe that the Lord is going to return and come save his elect, that stuff shouldn't trouble you, and your la'ab, have that mindset that, hey, we're not worried about these tariffs. We're not worried about, these Gerber troopers. We're not worried about, you know, ICE dealing with anybody that's, pushing this truth that, may be in their eyesight. At the end of the day, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to keep you covered, man. That's why we fear not the imaginations against thee, man. So for anything they have to bring towards us, anything that's going to try to hurt our bellies, hurt our pockets, hurt our day-to-day living, we don't care, man. At the end of the day, our faith is in the Lord. So, it's like we have that mindset, do what you got to do, Esau. Do what you got to do. At the end of the day, we covered, man. That's one of Jake's favorites saying, do what you got to do, bruh. All right, but it say, verse 4, for all the unfaithful, right? See, all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, man. So at the end of the day, they're going to be caught up in that destruction, for the ones who don't believe, It says, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, right? And we seen the plagues dealing with the C-19 and all these different plagues that the Lord has been pushing lately, man. The bird flu. Shoot, it's so many. It was a outbreak of leprosy going on right here in Florida, dealing with armadillos. Let them tell it. All right. But at the end of the day, these plagues are not going to stop until the Lord shows up to refresh the earth, man. Yahweh Shai himself. For those who don't know, Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, and Yahweh Shai is the true name of our Lord and Savior. All right. It says, behold, saith the Lord, right? Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Man. All right. So it had, their wickedness has spread across the whole world, man. It's polluted everything. Not just the mindsets of 2/3 of our people, right, who want to continue to follow behind. They follow the devil, right? These wicked ass Edomites, but everything else they have done is all been painful to the world, man. They're polluting our air, our food, our pockets. They're hurting everything that that people are involved into. Everything we need from this earth, man. They have poisoned it. Even tried to poison the doctrine. But the Lord said He was gonna wake us up, and He's waking us up right now, and bringing us back to Him. Right, and has His been out on the highways and byways, pushing His truth in sincerity, rightly dividing the words of truth, man. Giving that proper substance to the people. All right, let's go back to Habakkuk 2. And for behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. Right. So our faith is in the Lord, man. We're not worried about none of his imaginations, right? Anything they could think of to come against us, man. While they're fattening their pockets and pulling out, making our pockets hurt even worse. Right. The Lord is, he's counting all that against them, man. You know. But at the end of the day, his elect is going to drink. His elect is going to eat. So it's nothing to be worried about, right? Just be patient. And allow the Lord to work His perfect work. All right, verse 5. Yea, also because he transgressive by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell. He want everything, man. That's the mindset of these damn devils, man. And is as death, right? Because everywhere he go, he bring forth death, man. You know, even to the earth itself, man. He has brought death unto it. You know, just going into stuff like poison in the waters, poison in the air, poison in the soil itself. You know, um, it's so much stuff that they do, man. That's so harmful to this earth that we live on, right? That the Lord has to come refresh it, man. He has to refresh the air, refresh the water, right? He is going to completely cleanse the earth. All right, it says, neither keep at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. Right? They will never be able to be satisfied, no matter what they do. Man. This is why they keep going and keep um, oppressing people, man. Because at the end of the day, they want everything that everybody else has. They want it all, brand new socks and drawers. And they balling every time I start to talk to y'all. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, they want it all. It says, so like you for that. Yeah. It says, and is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations. Right? See, going out to all nations and spoiling them, and heapeth unto him all people. Right? Look at America today. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him? Right. Going back to Revelation, right? Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Right? Verse 6 in Habakkuk 2, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him? And say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, right? America's been in debt, man. And he's pushing the people into debt, further debt, man. Which is going to bring forth that collapse of the economy. As it says, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, that's all they do, man, is go around trying to conquer everything and won't, the mindset of Trump is like, bro, you can't stop I'm gonna do what I want to do, how I want to do it. I come take your stuff. They just released a video about him talking trash to Putin back before he got elected. Basically saying he will bomb Russia, if they come against Ukraine. But that's just him throwing shots, man. No false shots, man. He got blanks in his mouth, man. He shoot blanks. That ain't talking about a pistol and a bullet. All right, when I'm saying shooting blanks, okay, you gotta be specific around here, man. But anyway, I was so weird to hear somebody say pause. But anyway, it says, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee? Right. And await that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them, right? And these places are sick of it, man. These people want to come against America. They want to destroy America, man. They want to take everything America has to offer, right? It says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein, right? So because of all this stuff, man, these nations gonna end up turning against this place, man. As it was prophesied that NATO and the EU is gonna turn against this place, right, and shoot at her with ICBM missiles, man. Right along with the rest of the BRICS nations. Russia being that head guard, right, unto the BRICS, right. But stuff that Donald Trump has going on is what's gonna cause NATO and the EU to turn against America in that time, man. Right, verse 8 again, because thou hast spoiled many nations, right? All the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, right? Because of man's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein, man. They have a price to pay at the end of it all, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Shalom and DTA.